Let us see now what happens when we make parallel rays of light incident on a single slit. So this is the case of Fraunhofer diffraction at single slit. So let us consider these parallel rays of light which are made incident on this slit whose width is A. At the slit, diffraction will occur and the light rays will bend. Light rays will bend at different angles. So let us consider the light rays which are bent at an angle theta. These light rays merge at point P after passing through the convex lens. This is a Fraunhofer diffraction case. So a convex lens is kept between a slit and the screen. So these light rays arrive at point P on the screen. Our problem here is to find what is the intensity of light at point P due to the light waves which are diffracted at an angle theta. So let us try to find the intensity of light at point P. To find the intensity of light at point P, we will try to find out resultant amplitude of the wave disturbance arriving at point P. So let us see how that can be done in the further slides. So here we are making the parallel rays of light incident on a single slit of width A. The light rays which are diffracted at an angle theta arrive at point P on the screen. We want to find out intensity of light at point P. Here we will do one assumption. Let this slit of width A be divided into n number of parallel infinitesimally small slits, each of width dx. So this dx is infinitesimally small. It is so small that only one wavelet is emitted from each of these slit of width dx at an angle theta. So from n number of infinitesimally small slits, n number of waves will arrive at point P. We will try to find out resultant amplitude of the light waves arriving at point P by drawing the vector diagram. So in a vector diagram, each of these waves will be represented as a vector and the angles between the vectors will be represented by phase difference between the waves. So let us first try to find out the phase difference between these waves. Let us consider one slit of width dx. So the slit is so small that only one light wave is diffracted from it, emitted from it. So this is the light ray, ray number 1, which is diffracted from this slit, let us say, and this is the light ray which is diffracted from the lower slit, which is bottom of this slit or the top of the lower slit. So if you find out the path difference between ray number 1 and ray number 2 from this diagram, you can note it that the path difference between them is dx sin theta. Path difference is the difference in the path traveled by the two rays. So this point onwards and this point onwards, this is the equivalent point to this point on ray number 2. So this point onwards, the both light rays are traveling same distance, and therefore this is the additional distance traveled by ray number 2, which we are calling as path difference. So path difference between these two rays is dx sin theta. Corresponding phase difference can be obtained by multiplying this path difference by 2 pi by lambda. So phase difference between this ray number 1 and ray number 2, which are diffracted from successive slits of width dx, is given by 2 pi by lambda dx sin theta. If we find the path difference between this light ray which is diffracted from top of the slit of width A and this light ray which is diffracted from bottom of the slit of width A, this path difference can be obtained as A sin theta, and the corresponding phase difference between this topmost light ray and lowest light ray is 2 pi by lambda into A sin theta. So let us call it as phi. So we have found the phase difference between the light waves which are diffracted from successive slit of width dx and the phase difference between the light rays which are diffracted from top and bottom of the slit of width A. We will be using this information to find out the resultant amplitude of the wave disturbance that will arrive at point P, from which we can calculate the intensity of light. To find the amplitude of the wave disturbance arriving at point P, we will draw the phasor diagram or a vector diagram. And to draw the phasor diagram, we will follow these steps. We have already assumed that a slit of width A is divided into n number of small slit, each of width dx. Dx is infinitesimally small, and only one wavelet can be emitted from each slit of width dx at an angle theta. We will represent each of these wavelet by a vector, and length of the vector will be represented as amplitude of the wavelet, and angle between the two vectors will be represented by phase difference between the two wavelets. Once we draw a phasor diagram, we can find out the resultant amplitude of the wave disturbance going at point P. And once we get resultant amplitude of the wave disturbance going at point P, we can calculate the intensity of light at point P, because intensity is directly proportional to square of the resultant amplitude. Let us try to understand how to draw a phasor diagram in order to find the resultant amplitude of wave disturbance going at point P. So, to draw a phasor diagram, we will represent each wavelet by a vector. So, this is a vector number 1, which represents the wavelet coming out of slit number 1 of width dx. This is a vector number 2. The angle between the two vectors is d phi, which is nothing but the phase difference between the two wavelets. So, this d phi will be same as this d phi. If you join the tail of one vector with the head of the other vector, we can get the resultant. So, this E theta is the resultant amplitude due to the vector addition of these two vectors. Here we do not have only two vectors, we have got n number of vectors, because we have got n number of slits. So, let us add one more vector, third vector, vector number 1, vector number 2, angle between them d phi. So, this angle is d phi. Vector number 2, vector number 3, the angle between them is also d phi. So, this angle is also d phi. Now, the resultant E theta will be the vector joining tail of first and the head of the last vector. So, this is the resultant amplitude. Let us extend it to the cases of 4 vectors, 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is the resultant amplitude E theta. Same thing can be extended to n number of vectors, and we can get the resultant amplitude due to n number of waves. This phasor diagram can be simplified, and with that simplified diagram we can calculate the resultant amplitude of the wave disturbance arriving at point P. So, let us see how that is done in the next slide. So, this is the phasor diagram that we got in the last slide. In this phasor diagram, you can see this is E theta, which is resultant amplitude. If you join these vectors, we can get an arc, and r will be the radius of this arc. This d phi plus d phi plus d phi plus d phi n number of times will result in total angle between the first wave and the last wave, phase difference between the first wave and last wave, which is equal to phi. So, let us simplify this phasor diagram to this diagram. In this diagram, you can see this EM is the length of an arc which is formed by these vectors. Now, what is the significance of this EM? This resultant amplitude E theta will be equal to EM for certain value of theta, and when E theta is equal to EM, amplitude will be maximum, resultant amplitude will be maximum, and therefore intensity will be maximum. So for particular value of theta, this E theta will become equal to Em. Now with the help of this diagram, we will try to get the relation for E theta, and from this resultant value E theta, we can get for which value of theta we will get maximum intensity, and for which value of theta we will get minimum intensity. So let us try to see how that is done. So once we get this diagram, the further part is very simple. In this diagram we can see CD is perpendicular to AB, therefore we can write AD to be equal to BD to be equal to E theta by 2, because this angle is 90 degrees, this angle is 90 degrees, this will be 5 by 2, 5 by 2, this is R, this is R. So three conditions are satisfied. So all sides and all angles of these two triangles are same, so we can write AD to be equal to BD, which is equal to E theta by 2. Angle ACD and angle BCD, these are 5 by 2, and 5 by 2 we know it is pi by lambda A sin theta, because phi is equal to 2 pi by lambda A sin theta. So 5 by 2 is pi by lambda A sin theta. Let us call it as alpha. Now let us consider this triangle ADC. In this triangle we can write sin phi by 2 to be equal to AD upon R. Sin phi by 2 is equal to AD upon R, and therefore AD, which is nothing but E theta by 2, is equal to R sin phi by 2, and therefore we can get E theta to be equal to 2R sin phi by 2. Now this arc is enclosing angle phi by 2 plus phi by 2, that is phi, and therefore we can write angle enclosed by an arc is equal to length of an arc upon radius of an arc. Length of an arc is Em and radius of an arc is R. So phi is equal to Em upon R. So from this we can write R to be equal to Em upon phi. This R we can put here, and therefore E theta can be written as 2 into Em by phi sin phi by 2. When we take 2 to the denominator, we can write E theta to be equal to Em upon phi by 2 sin phi by 2. If we replace this phi by 2 by alpha, then we can write E theta to be equal to Em sin alpha upon alpha, where alpha is equal to pi by lambda A sin theta. So this is the resultant amplitude of the wave disturbance arriving at point P. E theta equal to Em sin alpha upon alpha, where alpha is equal to pi by lambda A sin theta. Now once we get the resultant amplitude of the wave disturbance arriving at point P, which is E theta equal to Em sin alpha upon alpha, we can easily calculate the intensity of light arriving at point P, because intensity is directly proportional to square of the amplitude. So we can write intensity to be equal to Im sin alpha by alpha square, where Im is proportional to Em square. So we have seen the resultant amplitude of the wave disturbance arriving at point P due to the light waves which are diffracted at an angle theta is given by E theta equal to Em sin alpha upon alpha, where alpha is equal to pi by lambda A sin theta. From this relation now we can find out the conditions for principal maximum and minimum. For which value of theta we are going to get maximum intensity, and for which value of theta we will get minimum intensity. This we will try to find now. Now what is Em here? Em is maximum possible value of the amplitude. So intensity will be maximum when E theta is equal to Em. So we will try to find out for what value of theta E theta will be equal to Em. To find that, let us write this sin alpha as an infinite series. So sin alpha can be written as alpha minus alpha cube by 3 factorial plus alpha raised to 5 by 5 factorial minus alpha raised to 7 by 7 factorial plus and so on. This 1 alpha can be cancelled with 1 alpha in each of this term, and we can write e theta to be equal to em into bracket 1 minus alpha square by 3 factorial plus alpha raised to 4 by 5 factorial minus alpha raised to 6 by 7 factorial plus and so on. Now looking at this, we can easily say that e theta will be equal to em when alpha is equal to 0, because when alpha equal to 0, all these terms will turn out to be 0 and e theta will become equal to em. So the condition for principal maximum is what? Alpha equal to 0. What is alpha? Alpha is equal to pi by lambda a sin theta. So alpha equal to 0 means pi by lambda a sin theta equal to 0. That is sin theta equal to 0, and that is true when theta is equal to 0. So condition for principal maximum when e theta is equal to em is true when theta is equal to 0. Theta equal to 0 means which point? Point exactly opposite to the center of the slit. So this point will be the point of highest intensity. Now let us find the condition for minimum. We will get minimum intensity when the amplitude, resultant amplitude is equal to 0. Resultant amplitude e theta is equal to em sin alpha upon alpha, and when this is equal to 0, we are going to get minimum intensity. Now this will turn out to be 0 when sin alpha is equal to 0, and alpha should not be equal to 0, because when alpha is equal to 0, we have seen we got principal maximum. So for minimum intensity, sin alpha should be 0, but alpha should not be 0. So this will be true when alpha is equal to plus or minus m pi, where m is equal to 1, 2, 3 and so on, integer. Alpha is equal to pi by lambda a sin theta, and therefore the condition for minimum becomes pi by lambda a sin theta equal to plus or minus m pi. Pi will get cancelled, lambda taken on the other side, and we can write the condition for minimum as a sin theta equal to plus or minus m lambda. In terms of theta, this condition can be written as theta equal to sin inverse of plus or minus m lambda upon a. Between two minimas, there will be a secondary maximum, and this secondary maximum is obtained for the condition alpha equal to plus or minus m plus half pi. That is when alpha is equal to 3 pi by 2, 5 pi by 2, 7 pi by 2, we are going to get a secondary maximum. Here this m is the order of the minimum, and here this m is the order of the secondary maximum. Thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, then please subscribe to the channel so that you will get timely intimation of new videos uploaded to the channel. Thank you very much.